Okay. I've got it recording. I believe.
This group is a very patient group, and they understand. Dr. Stone will introduce himself, but he's learning like you guys had to learn from the beginning. So they'll be patient with you.
All right. Well, I'm counting on it. Well, it is 6 o'clock, and I don't guess you can see me anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because I know your time is valuable. I know you've had a busy day. But welcome to MELS 605. I am Steve Stone. I'm the new staff member here at. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm the new professor here at Gardner Webb, full-time professor. I'm very excited about it. So looking forward to this interaction with you. But as Danny said, this is new to me. Coming from the superintendency, I was a superintendent in Caldwell County Schools for 12 years. I've been superintendent throughout the state and 2 other school districts. So very much in the practical realm. But when it comes to Blackboard and Zooming and YouTubing, you guys are going to have to be patient with me and teach me a lot.
Well, Dr. Stone, they're experts. I tell you, they are experts. After that first semester, they are experts.
I'm counting on their expertise. Well, kind of what I wanted to do tonight was to introduce the course, and I had everything planned up, and then my laptop kind of failed on me, and my office computer does not have a camera on it yet. So any technology that can go wrong does go wrong. So welcome. I am Steve Stone. I'm going to be your professor. Danny is going to be our coach for the course, and we have. I think I've introduced myself, but I do hope that you'll feel free to call me on my cell phone. That's 828-292-3980, and I'll make sure all of this has been posted, as well as email me at my personal email or the school email here. And I will post all of that for you. I wanted to go over some of the Blackboard, some of the expectations, and basically I have 3 for this course. One is for you to be very successful in this course. I want you to move through it with the most efficiency, with the most benefit for you at all. The second is I want you to move through the certification process. And the third, of course, is I hope that we can get something out of this that will be useful to you in your day-to-day job. And the other thing, too, is as we go and you get to know me, I hope that you'll use me as a resource as you begin to look at other jobs or you begin through that process. So those are kind of my goals. I was going to go over a Blackboard, kind of go over it with you, but Danny tells me you're experts on it, so I won't need to do that. I do want to remind you, look at if you can at some point pull it up and look at the class schedule. Today is our first week. We're going to be talking about leadership, management, supervision. Our textbooks are Hershey and Glickman, and we're going to start looking at the discussion boards. I wanted Danny, I know Danny's got another place that he has to go to another course, so I wanted him to talk a little bit about the task stream schedule and some of the things that he'll be doing as your coach this semester. Is that okay, Danny?
That's good. And just to let you know that you are stuck with me until the end. You are my seniors now, so you are stuck with me to the bitter end. I hope that's a good thing, Jason. I hope it's a good thing. But I will be the one that will be the driving force behind making sure, again, that everything is in task stream, that it's correct, and that it's done in a timely manner. And you know how I am about time management and getting things done like they're supposed to be done and when they're supposed to be done. I have gone through, Dr. Stone, all the students that are assigned to your class. Every one of them are exactly where they need to be beginning this class. All of them, all of you should have at least finished task 1 of the CAP. And you should be working already, you should be working on that. And again, it's not something that either Dr. Stone or I, we shouldn't have to just sit down and you know, spell it out to you. You know the routine now, you know what to do. What I'm going to do, I'm going to let you, you basically know how to reach out to me. As your coach, you know how to reach out to me. If you're having a problem, you know how to reach out to me and say, Dr. Steven, I need some help with this, or will you look at this? You still go to the same process. You go to your coach in Blackboard. You go to coach and you send me any information or that you want me to look at, any work you want me to look at. I will look at it. Nothing has changed as far as the process with that. Now, Dr. Stone will with the cap, the final cap, or the task of the cap, and with the PSYOP, those are there's two things that you will do. You'll get a grade in his class because he's got to show, because it's a part of his course. However, he and I have collaborated, and I'm going to push the button when it's ready to go into task stream. He's not out of the picture because you're responsible for making sure that this is done as a part of his class, his 605 class. However, I'm going to push the button for it to go into tasks. He and I are going to be working together on this. If you need to talk with me about something, Dr. Stone doesn't mind that you reach out to me. You don't have to go through one to get to the other. You don't have time for that, and he and I don't have time for that. So we have an understanding that, with your task stream work, that it's okay to go directly to me if you need to go to me as your clinical coach. You should have been working on your competency folio. Remember, you have to do 3 complete rounds of those 21 competencies. You should have 2 rounds completed, and if you don't, you need to get those 2 rounds completed so that at the end of this course, you're not having to go back and to catch up with something that should have already been done. Remember, all 21 competencies have to be addressed 3 times. You've already set up your competency folio. That's where you're storing it. It's like you're putting the things in there. And then at the end of this semester, you're going to let me look at those, all 3 sets of your competencies, and then I'm going to tell you, give the thumbs up, and I'm going to say it's ready for you to submit this as a final competency folio into task stream. That will not come until towards the end of the semester, though. The main thing you need to work on now is making sure that you are well into the cap, completing the cap, and with that in a timely manner. Now, Dr. Stone, have they, in your course syllabus, is it mapped out
Yes, for week
when
1,
when they have to have certain things turned in? Am I correct?
Yes, they do. On week
Okay.
1, they need to upload cap task 1 and the discussion board for peer review.
Okay. And again, you should already have that, so it should be a matter of just uploading it, because that was something that most of you worked on, last semester. We asked you to get a head start on that. If you did not feel comfortable with that, go back and tweak it, work on it, make sure that it's good enough to go into the discussion board. Don't just put anything there. So that, and Dr. Stone, if you would, I need to see that time. When you get a chance, just send me that time schedule too, so I'll be able to monitor it on my end for them as well. In task stream, remember, you have a School of Ed disposition that you have to do this time, and then there is a regular competency analysis where you have to do the self-assessments in there. Jason, I think you've done yours already. I remember looking at yours. Anyway, if you haven't done that, go ahead and knock that out and get it over with. You know how long it takes, about 5 minutes to do each one of them. So go ahead and get that done, and you'll have that behind you. And your internship log, remember, you should have completed a minimum of 80 hours for semester 1, semester 2, 80 hours, a minimum, with quality administrative internship experiences. I encourage you to make sure that you try as much as possible this last semester to get as many different experiences as you can. I realize that most of you are still in the classroom and it's hard, but try to get as many different experiences as you can, and I will also be the one that will look at those at the end of this semester, and I'll tell you when they're ready to be finally submitted into task stream. Now remember, when you go into your task stream account, at any time you can go in there and you can, before it goes for an evaluation, a final evaluation, you can go in there and you can put it in there just for me to look at it. So just remember, you can do that. But now I will tell you, I'm working with over 100 students this semester, and I do go in there every day. If for some reason you don't get, you know how timely I am trying to give you feedback. If you don't, within 24 hours, if you haven't heard from me, then send me an email and just say, Dr. Stedman, I've got something in task stream, and that will be a reminder for me to go in there. If for some reason I shouldn't mess up, but I may mess up, so if I do, it's okay after 24 hours to remind me if you haven't gotten feedback from me. Okay? Dr. Stone, pretty much, they know the routine on this. There shouldn't be any problem with task stream at all. It's just a matter of them pacing themselves, getting the work done, and I'm going to monitor that as well. They know I will. They know I don't let them get behind. If there is a situation, you need to make sure that you communicate with Dr. Stone and with me, and we'll work with you by all means if there's a personal situation. But without that, we expect you to have your work done on time. And again, Dr. Stone, every one of these students, they do quality work, and I expect them to continue to do the same quality work that they've always done.
Right.
Students, do you have any questions of me before I have to sign off? 75, Dr. Lamb and I have 75 more brand new students that we're taking through boot camp. You remember, don't you? We're taking them through boot camp right now. Dr. Stone, do you have any questions of me right now?
I do not, Danny. Thank you for joining us and getting that going.
And listen, if you need me tomorrow, call me, okay?
I certainly
okay,
will.
guys, call me if you need me.
I may need some help on how to turn on video.
And I'm actually going to be at Gardner Webb next Wednesday and Thursday, so I'll make sure that I see you while I'm there.
All right. Thank you, Danny.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye, guys.
All right. Okay, so I want to do a couple of things with you. Danny has spoken very highly of you, and he certainly gives me all the scoop on you, so he says you are well prepared. So I hope that you'll help me. I do want to go back a little bit to the introductions because I am fairly new. Again, this whole technology of having Zoom and having Blackboard, I spent probably 3 weeks trying to learn Blackboard over the summer. Now, I am an old dog trying to learn new tricks, so I'll try to keep it up with you all. And you guys just feel free to call me on the carpet and say, hey, Steve, you need to be doing this, or think about this, or do something different, because I really do want you to get something out of this other than just your certification. I'm hoping that you'll be able to use this in your practical everyday job or in that next job when you make that next big jump. So if I can ever help you with any of that, and I promise you next week we will have a video you'll get to see. I'll even cut my hair probably between then, so you'll get a better picture of me. But I hope you can hear me. I want to go back to the weekly class schedule. We do have 15-week schedule, and I am, again, this whole putting it all in a schedule is fairly new to me with the syllabus, so we'll be very flexible. And as Danny said, my goal is to help you be successful. So if something comes up and you need some assistance or you need anything from us, feel free, because by the end of this semester, you are going to be out of this course and you are going to be successful with it. For week 1, we are going to talk about leadership management supervision. You should by now have read Hersey and Glickman, and the discussion boards are up there. Remember, you read 2 of them, choose one, and then for your evidence of work, you upload CAP 1 into your discussion board for peer review. Next week, we're going to talk about motivation and behavior and the adult learners. Some more Hersey assignments and Glickman, some more discussion board 3 and 4, and upload CAP 2 into the discussion board for peer review. Now, I'm going to try to be as good as Danny as far as getting back with you as quickly as possible. But I do have a little bit of a learning curve, so if you'll be, and I will stop saying that, I promise you, at week 3. I have a little learning curve. I will try to do better. Okay, Danny explained all that. I want to see if you have any questions or anything I can help you with right now. I think we do this through chat. I think I can unmute you all. There may be some crying babies. Unmute all. Are there any questions? Are you unmuted?
Yes. Dr. Stone, I just had a quick question about, and I don't have my paper in front of me. One of our textbooks is like almost $200.
Is that the 4th edition of?
I think it's the one that's the 10th edition. So is it? Can we get like a earlier edition?
Come again? Can you get a?
Can we get an earlier edition? Because the earlier editions are way cheaper.
Yes, you can.
Okay. I didn't know if there
Did
was.
everybody hear that? Yes, you can get an earlier edition. I'm learning these textbooks. I'm having to read this, and I want you to know that this Hershey book, I read this 30 years ago when I went for my doctorate. And Glickman, I don't know how long he's been around. So I don't think their theories have changed very much. So feel free, don't, as long as we can talk about it and you have any questions, there may be some changes, but just for point of reference, I'll try to keep it all about, I don't have an older edition, but yes, feel free to do that. There's no reason to buy expensive books.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to, by the way, at the end of this course, get all of your opinions about how to do this moving for the next 605 class, because I think I'll be teaching it for a while, and I'm not really crazy about either one of these textbooks. That's between you and I, but we can talk about that at the end of the semester. I want your opinion on that. Any other questions?
To piggyback off of her question, Dr. Stone.
Yes.
Are the chapters pretty much the same? Because I thought the same thing. I was like $200 too much for a textbook. I just couldn't do it because I'm paying out of pocket for the class.
Okay. I don't know, but I will. But if you can kind of follow, I'll try to get an old edition. Was it the 3rd edition?
No, it's the 9th edition.
No, yeah.
Okay. Oh, so this is the. Is it Glickman or is it? Yeah. Yeah. It is. No, it's Hershey. I'll try to get the 9th edition and try to do some correlation.
From upstairs.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'll try to do that this week. So, and again, we'll have plenty of opportunity to talk about the things that are in our textbook. And the textbook is just a supplement to what hopefully we'll be able to do. But no, don't waste $200 on a book. God help.
Thank you.
All right. Don't tell anybody I said that. So it's on YouTube. It's
Okay.
that strange voice that somebody hears out there that no one knows.
It's recording now, so be careful.
All right. Any other questions for me before I kind of turn my kind of talking a little bit about leadership? And also what I want to say too is I'm really not going to spend a lot of time talking about what's in the textbook. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about your discussion boards and things like that, because I think what I would love to do is, one, assist you in moving through the process, but the other is to kind of give you a perspective from someone who's been in administration for 30 years of my 38 years in public education. So, but I would like your honest feedback. If this isn't working, you just let me know. All right, I'm gonna mute you and talk a little bit about leadership. Some of it from the chapters of the book, and some of it from just personal experience. And then I'll unmute, or you can ask me a question through chat. I don't know how to chat individually, but anyway, I thank you, Jason, for welcoming me. International edition of Glickman's Cheaper. I don't care. Go ahead. On the international chapter. So anyway, all right, I'm gonna mute everybody. Okay. I think I know how to do it. Current new participant will be muted. I don't know what that is. Okay. Leadership. The 3 main topics tonight, of course, in your packet or in the course syllabus. Can everybody still hear me? Shake your head. Yeah. Okay. In your course syllabus, there were the major leadership theories. And if you look at those, there was number one, or at the beginning of it, when you look at leadership theories, there was a quiz. I don't know if any of you had a chance to go to that. I did, and I came out as a Democratic, which is kind of what I thought I was. But that was an interesting, it's about 14 questions. You may want to look at that if you want a little free time in school when you're doing nothing, to look at that and to take that quiz. But anyway, it talks about the 8 different styles, and probably at this point, Danny, Dr. Stedman would tell you to identify the one that you think that you are, and then have you take the test. But do look at those, because those are some of the most modern research. There's also the framework in there of the 21st century learner. Look at that as well, because that'll be helpful as we move down into the course. But just real quickly about Glickman, if you haven't read it yet, basically he talks about the paradigm shift in which we have to move in leadership. He gives us an example of 3 different schools. An interesting read. And the idea is if you can pick out your school. Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
I know you can't see me. I think you may have just joined us, but I'm having technical difficulties.
Oh no, I've been here for a while. I just
I'm
have my
sorry.
audio.
Well, good to see you. You're
Yes.
kind of big on my screen now.
I am so sorry.
That's quite all right. That's all right. So Glickman talks about supervisors, and he has a chart on page 9, which is basically the organization of the textbook. God, I don't know what I'm doing. And he talks about, well, he talks about the changing role of leadership. And one of the questions he asks on that in the chapter is that, and this is something I hope that we can talk about, and I would love to have a little bit more discussion than me always just talking, but he says on page 11 that educators, we as educators, are the primary stewards of the democratic spirit, which is interesting because I was raised to believe that public schools are the great equalizer. Public schools, of course, are the great opportunity for everybody to get ahead, and that's the purpose of public schools. And so I found it interesting that Glickman said that we are the primary stewards of the democratic spirit. That puts an awesome responsibility on educators and you as a leader or you as a supervisor, that we have to be the primary force, and particularly in this day and age with politics as it is, but we have to be the primary force for democracy. It was very interesting. And that was something new that Glickman had added that he hadn't had, 30 years ago. He also, in his chapter, he talks about the novice teacher and what we do to novice teachers. And I know North Carolina has a law where new teachers for the first 3 years of their career cannot do extracurricular duties unless they choose to do that. So that's good. But when he starts talking about some of the traits and some of the things we do to our newest teachers, it kind of rings a bell, because when I was a principal, I vaguely remember and do remember that our beginning teachers oftentimes got the worst classes. They also, because sometimes they came in late, they got the classes that were combinations. So, but the strangest thing about public education is, and in education in general, is that we really do expect everyone to come in and to assume the same or more responsibilities at the same level of competence as our veteran folks. So that's quite interesting, I thought. It's also interesting that between a third and a half of all of our teachers do leave the classroom within the first 7 years of teaching. And that probably has a lot to do with what we put them on and what our expectations for them are. He also, in his book, the last point I want to mention from his chapter was that he says that our schools are impoverished intellectual climates for adults. And I take that to be that we have so little collaboration in many of our schools that they don't have a chance, that staff don't have a chance to be around other adults. Sometimes they close that door. They're with 23 kindergartners or 15 kindergartners all day, that they really don't have much of an opportunity to have that collegial, professional conversations that many of the other professions have. So read Glickman. He also goes into the effective schools research, and I doubt I don't know how young most of you are, but I would be most surprised if somewhere in your school there's not a quote attributed to Ron Edmonds, who started the effective schools research back in the 70s. You've heard this. He said, "We can, whenever and wherever we choose, successfully teach all students whose schooling is of interest to us. We already know more than we need to do that, and whether or not we do it must finally depend on how we feel about the fact that we haven't done it so far." When I was going through education and starting into my career, everything was about Ron Edmonds and the effective schools research. Since that time, there's been 2 more movements of effective schools. The second wave added the component of site-based management and curriculum articulation, staff development. And the third wave, which is going through now, which is good and finally welcomed, is cultural awareness and the ability to creating a culture of caring, basic skills implemented with a rich environment. So, and then helping teachers to address some of those cultural special needs to prevent academic problems. So that was Glickman, and I'm not going to spend a lot more time on him. So you don't, Hersey's the book that cost a lot. Okay, well, let me tell you what Hersey talked about in chapter 1. Of course, he's been 50 years, as I said. His book is the same model probably that I had 30-some years ago, but he talks about situational based leadership. He said that good leaders make the organization, but the part in this chapter, or this particular book that he's evolved, is he talks about Generation X and Generation Y. And those are the teachers that you're hiring now. Those are the teachers who are occupying our building. And you know this as well as I do. They are not like the elder or the older teachers that are in your building. Their values, their work ethics is so much different. And the reality is that they are more loyal to their leaders than they are to the organization. So if you have a good leadership style and you understand what Generation X and Generation Y students or teachers need, they're going to be more loyal to you than they would be to Caldwell County Schools or whatever school system that you are in. And it is important to retain those good teachers, because it actually costs about 10 times more to recruit teachers than it does to retain them. He talks about leadership, that defines leadership, and so really not worth the $200 for the book, but we'll try to make the best of Hersey. What I want to do is talk a little bit about more from my experience of what effective leadership, supervision, and communication is. So if you'll bear with me, and again, this is coming from what I think my best role for you will be, is to give you some practical advice and to help you, I hope, on a personal level or on a professional level, get to whatever goal you want to be. So I'm going to talk about what leadership to me is and what I've seen over my 38 years in education. And remember, I retired June 30th of 2018. So up until a month and a half ago, I was there in the superintendent's office in Caldwell County, which is about 12,000 students. We had about 1,800 employees, and I think we're up to like the 30th largest system in North Carolina. So let me tell you what I think leadership is. Or what is the best thing about leadership? One, and how it is evolving, and how you as a leader of the future leader or a leader now, what's going to be required of you. First of all, you're going to have constructive collaboration. The old days of the leader being the manager and getting things done their way, those are gone. With the Generation Y, Generation X teachers, with the public that we serve now, you're going to have to drive performance in your teams. You're going to have to work through team organizations, through those partnerships. The second thing you're going to have to do, and I've observed, is that you're going to have to create and lead a culture of innovation. Public schools, or whatever school you're in, we just can't take it for granted anymore that we're going to be the school system of choice. Charter schools, private schools, homeschooling, all of that is growing at the expense of public schools. And so if you're going to be a leader in a public system, you're going to have to, or public school, or any school, you're going to have to be one who creates a culture of innovation. That means that you're going to have to require highly trained, you're going to have to be highly trained. You're going to have to help ignite the creative spirit and to create within your staff, not just you, that culture of innovation. You're going to have to energize your people for performance. That means you're going to have to do some personalized coaching as a leader. You're going to have to master the processes and the tools that unleash the potential that your individuals in your building have. And you already know who some of those folks are. Your goal as a leader is to energize them and to get them going, to give them the vision, to give them that sight, and to let loose, and then kind of monitor them on the sides. You're going to have to lead for the future, realizing that what we have in our buildings today is going to change within 2 or 3 years. Of course, I don't need to tell you that data and how to analyze it, not only for you, but for your staff and for your individual teachers, that's going to be a very important part of your role as a leader. Of course, one of the things that I had to do a lot of, and that was to navigate workplace conflict. I don't know if any of you are currently sitting as a principal, but that's certainly something that you will very quickly realize, is that this job is loaded with conflict. Whenever you have a building full of people, not to mention with children, that conflict is an important and ever ongoing situation. So wherever there are people, there are going to be problems. There are going to be personalities that are going to challenge you, that are going to challenge the vision, the mission of the school. So as an executive leader, you're going to have to be able to negotiate and manage through that. You got to stay focused on the customer, which is your community and your stakeholders, and you got to be authentic in all of this. You got to make sure that people can see you as an authentic leader, and that will work with you on that. All right. So my experience of leadership is that it requires a whole lot, and it's changing ever so much. And that if you really want to be a great leader, which I know you do, if you are not already in leadership positions, is to make sure that you have some of those leadership qualities. Now, in your reading, one of the big questions was in your leadership styles: are you born a leader, or is that a skill that you can learn? And I hope we'll have some conversation about that before we go. The other two things I want to talk about is effective communication. Some of the things that I've have learned over the last couple of years, basically deal with. Here's a scenario, and you've all probably have seen this. And I'll tell you, when I was supervising 26 principals, I probably had more complaints from the public or from someone, a teacher or someone else, about the principal. And it wasn't because the principal didn't listen to them. But here's the scenario. You go in as an angry parent. The principal does a phenomenal job with the assistant principal of calming you down, answering your questions. But just as you turn to leave the door and you're heading out, you have something come through your mind, one more question that you need to ask, and you turn around and you see the principal rolling their eyes, or you see the principal kind of giving that face of, thank God this is over. So be careful about that, because what you're communicating, it needs to be consistent to the parent. And so be careful of those kinds of things. Your body language. Again, most of the complaints that I received from members of the public about my administrators was, other than the fact that they didn't return calls or they were late in their calls, was that they just, here's what they'd say. They look like they just don't care. You know, I'd be talking, and they'd be nodding their head, or they look like they're off someplace else. So watch your body language. Also, look for those barriers that may be there. Always be aware of cultural competencies and cultural differences within the public that we serve. So, to be an effective communicator, some of the lessons I've learned over my years in public education, one is people need to be able to relate to you. You've got to be someone whom they can see as an individual. So I would encourage you, as you are developing your leadership skill and your communication skills, let people see a part of you. Get into the practice of walking around your office or engaging in informal chats. Show some interest in people and in their family, and remember incidences and remember things about what's going on in their life. It's also important that you share a little bit of yours. Now, there could be a slippery slope here. You don't want to go too far where you share way too much, too much information. So be careful how you do that. You want to stay professional, but you ought to be able to relate to your staff as well. Be able to talk about the family, the weekends, and those kinds of things. Just be very careful with that one. I've also discovered that it helps if you kind of repeat things a couple of times. Some of particularly your key things that you want them to take away from. Sometimes it's helpful for them at the end to be able to repeat back kind of, now, what did you get from what I said? Again, not condescending, but in a way in which they can relate back to you that they actually heard and understand what you were saying. It always helps to have a good sense of humor. People really like humor. Just don't use it at their expense, but be careful. Don't go overboard. And of course, you would never, ever, ever use any kind of humor that's offensive to anyone for any reason. And when it comes to humor, I would always assume that something you say can be taken wrong. So if you are insensitive to people, so be very, very careful with that. But humor is a good way to get people going, but not at someone's expense. Of course, you've always been told to actively listen, really listen, keep your eyes on them, be respectful of the person and to their point of view. I mentioned that one of the things that I heard the most from my public about my principals was the fact that they were not timely. Emails were not returned. Oh my God, how many times have I heard from a parent, I've called that principal 3 times and they never called me back. I started a week ago. So that's unexcusable. So if you want to be a great leader, you got to work on making sure that you have a timely response to folks. And people will respect you, and when you build up that reputation that you respond quickly, it will not go unrewarded. Your team will certainly feel appreciated. The other thing that I talk to principals about is to make sure that you always realize that you are on the stage all the time. And so don't make any of those faux pas movements of the hot mic, or no matter where you are or what you are a leader and everyone is going to be watching you. And so they will be watching everything you do. So be prepared for the unknown. The other communication skill, I think you need to be able to react readily to any kind of situation. In an administration, school administration, things are going to come at you fast and furious. You ought to be able to have that skill to be able to do that. You've got to be present. You've got to let people know that you are available and that you value what they have to say. That simply means sometimes just standing and talking with them, not keep walking, certainly not doing other things like watching your phone, certainly not doing the kinds of activities that show that you aren't really giving them 110%. I've also found that it helps me to write down things. When I was a principal walking through the building, even in the central office, I always had a notepad with me, and I would, if somebody said something to me about, can you check on this? I always put it on my little notepad, and you'd be surprised at the end of the day when you go back to look at that notepad to try to respond to what people have asked you to do. All right. And the last thing I want to recommend under communication is always ask before you speak. Don't make assumptions or misinterpret what someone is telling you. So ask, especially when it comes to really complex scenarios or things that go on in public schools. So don't be afraid to ask. All right. The last thing I want to talk to you about is supervision. And then I want to open the mic and see what you guys want to talk about or any questions you might have. Supervision, an effective supervision for you in your leadership role. Of course, for supervision, again, some of the skills I've learned over the last 38 years have been as far as supervision goes. And supervision, by the way, is just simply the person who's intervening, who is usually the senior member or the administrator of a profession, is working with that junior member of that same profession. So that's basically what supervision is. So some important skills for supervision. Listen. This one's simple. Next time you're talking to someone, again, try not to speak for 2 minutes to see what they have to say. Really listen to what they're saying. Give them 110%. Be available to them. And that means if they are catching you at a time that you've got 100 things going on, slow down, give them a little attention. And if you can't spend a lot of time with them at that point, just simply say, come back and see me. This is very important. Come and see me. Be transparent and understand that secrecy is frustrating to a lot of people, and it certainly disempowers a lot of folks who you are going to need to be empowered. Delegation is a great way for supervision. You do that as you obviously have been delegated to a lot by your supervisor. So delegation is probably one of the hardest skills to learn and to perfect. But when you delegate, you're transferring the decision-making authority to someone else, and you are kind of monitoring it and giving them authority to do it. Taking responsibility, giving credit, always important when you delegate authority. Don't take credit for it yourself. One of the best administrators I've ever worked for was someone who may have done 100% of the job, but they always found ways to involve those who participated along the way and gave them the credit. And the last thing about supervision is be very realistic about it. You can't make commitments that you can't keep. And promises are great, but if you can't keep them, that's certainly going to be a detriment to your leadership, and to particularly when people look at you as their supervisor. You lose all credibility. All right, I'm going to unmute you and see if you have any questions for me, if I can figure out how to do this. I think you're unmuted. See if you have any questions for me or anything you want to ask or anything you want to discuss about week 1 or the chapter readings from our 2 books or anything about leadership, supervision, or communication. Welcome back, everybody. All right. So I don't know how they do this, but they said for me to try to do a Zoom session for 45 minutes, and we've done about 40. So unless you have any questions, I'm ready to wrap it up and just remind you that next week, go ahead and try to get those books, whatever one you can. And next week, we're going to talk about motivation behavior. I would like for you to do the reading, come with some questions or some discussions for it, because I really would like to move toward that format and keep doing your evidence work. And next week, I'll get to see you again. You'll get to see me, hopefully, if I can figure out how to work my Google account. So, well, I've got 5 more minutes. Tawanda, what do you do for a living?
I am a special ed teacher.
Where?
at Lamar High School in Darlington County, South Carolina.
South Carolina. I was a teacher in Pageland. You know where it is? Central High School. All right. Lynette Milhouse.
Yes, sir.
I don't see you. You're the one hiding. What do you do?
I teach seventh grade in Orangeburg. Hi, guys.
Hey, Orangeburg in South Carolina. All right. Jason.
Hi, I teach social studies at Garringer High School in Charlotte.
That's a big high school.
Yeah.
All right. Jody?
I am a special education teacher at Aiken Middle School in South Carolina.
Ooh, a lot of South Carolina folks. Okay, now who am I missing? Chris? Chris Dixon? Oh, muted. Did I get Alpine?
No, and I work at Lamar High School also in Darlington.
All right. God, almost everybody from South Carolina but you, Jason. And me.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. I'm quite serious about this. I want this to be a good semester for you. So, if you have any helpful suggestions for me, other than the obvious technology stuff, just let me know. Again, my goal is to make sure you get successfully through this and that you are well on your way toward whatever certification you're working on. And I really do hope you get something out of it. So feel free to use me as a resource. Anything else for the good of the cause?
No,
Go
sir.
buy those expensive books.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Dr. Stone, before you go,
Yes.
do you have a specific date as far as the end of the week and when assignments should be turned in for Blackboard?
No, just whenever you can get them in there. I mean, you don't need to get behind. But no, I'm not particularly interested in deadlines or anything. I just don't want you to get behind. And if you have any really technical questions, you're going to have to lean on Danny a lot the first semester because I'm still learning kind of stuff. But no, I'm not. I'll go in and look at it when you put it in there, but don't get behind.
No. Stop it.
Hey, who's this?
I'm sorry, my phone's been acting up. This is Chris Dixon.
Hey, Chris, what do you do?
I'm in CMS. I'm a biology teacher.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions before we zoom out? None? All right. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
It's a funny doggy with Trisha with no.